This is a two-handed job, so I'm gonna get into greasing my shaft, and then I'll show you guys the final product. Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Pedal Down 4x4. We are working on Tacoma again today, and today, like I said last week, we're gonna try and make a drive shaft. Now, disclaimer, I've never done this before. I've never made a square tube drive shaft. I've done some research on it. Seems pretty simple to do, and it's like way cheaper. I don't want to spend 800, 900 bucks on a front drive shaft that I'm probably gonna destroy. Now let me show you guys how we might do this. Now, when you're gonna do your truck, or when you do your front drive shaft, you want two main measurements when you're doing a square tube drive shaft. You're gonna want to measure your pinion from this flange to your transfer case. So at full compression, this is not full compression, but it's about another inch or so, and it's about 26 inches. So at 26 inches of full compression, I have written that down here, just on this piece of paper, 26 inches. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the truck on the big jack stands, the 10-ton pin jacks. I'm going to let the suspension drop all the way down as much as it'll go, and then we're now going to measure from the pinion to the transfer case, and we're going to get that measurement, and that'll be the measurement that our drive shaft is going to be. Now, you have to accommodate the U-joints, those flanges, if you're going to run a double cardon, which I'm hoping I have around. I have to check the back shed. If I don't, then I might just cut up the old front drive shaft, and hopefully it works. Hopefully it has enough angle. I don't know. It's a cheap alternative. We'll figure it out. But you have to take into account that measurement as well into your main measurement. Then you're going to want to back that off even more, because you're going to want slip and compression as well. So these square tubing is 2.5 inch and then 2x2 inch. So if I take the tape measure here, you'll see that this guy is 2 inches and this guy is 2.5 inches. Now the 2 inch will fit in a 2.5. So we have about 3 feet of that, so we have way more than we need. That way, in case I need to make a new drive shaft later on down the road, maybe I break it or whatever, maybe my weld doesn't hold up, then we can always try and remake a new one. Hopefully down the line, I will go ahead and purchase a high angle, high articulation drive line for this. Trail Gear sells them, Marlin Crawler sells them. You can have Tom Woods, they can make you a drive shaft. I don't want to spend a damn near $1,000 because of shipping to get this done, so we're gonna go with the cheaper alternative, and we're gonna go to square tube. The other thing that you might know is that you're gonna have to grease this. So now that there's no splines, right, it's just riding on this tube, so you're gonna want to grease the living shit out of this drive shaft. I bought a whole tube, and I'm gonna pump the whole tube in that drive shaft, and hopefully it doesn't I don't know, mess up, I guess. And the other thing that you may have a question of is, won't it vibrate, or maybe it'll vibrate or whatnot like that. You don't really have to worry about that, because the only time this drive shaft is gonna move, because I have locking hubs, is that when the truck is in full drive. So this drive shaft will never spin unless I'm off-road. And if I'm going off-road, chances are I'm not going more than 20-25 miles an hour. So I'm not too worried about the balance of the drive shaft. It's more for strength. Square tubing is pretty strong. I have seen it used in a lot of rock crawlers, so I'm not rock crawling, so it better stand up. But I'm not sure about the flex, so we'll figure that one out after. Once I do complete the drive shaft, I'll put it in the truck, lower the axle all the way down, and see if it spins and see if it binds. I may have to clearance the U-joints on the front drive, on that drive shaft itself, to try and give it more angle, but you can't do that too much, because if you do it too much, you are weakening that U-joint, and you have the possibility of breaking that U-joint, and depending on where it does break, you can cause issues later on down the line. So I'm gonna get to cutting up this steel, and I will meet you guys back. Actually, I have to go look for that double cardan or the other front drive shaft, so I will be right back. I'll see you guys later. Alright, so I don't know what's going on with the GoPro. It died again while I was cutting this stuff. I said I wasn't going to film it, but I decided to, and then it just cut off randomly. I don't know. But anyway, didn't cut the tubes yet, but I did cut the flanges, so they are now square, and this tube will slide in on that flange. Now I did give myself a little bit because I'm going to weld the shit out of this thing, so I do have a little bit of movement in there, as well as this guy here. You can see it's a square now. And then yeah, we're just gonna go ahead, we're gonna weld these guys up. I'm gonna tack them on first, and then I'm gonna clean these up with a wire wheel, tack them on, make sure they're straight, put them in the truck, and then we're gonna, so it's 26 inches at full compression. Ow! Damn! 26 inches at full compression, so I need to measure the distance of these joints. Well, that's in the press, but I have to measure the distance of the joints, subtract that from the cuts, and then give myself an inch to play with, and then we'll see what happens when I still need to put it on the jack stands and lower it all the way down and see what measurement we have. So yeah, it's a pretty simple process. Just gotta make sure your measurements are close-ish. I mean, it's a square tube drive shaft. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's only going to be used off-road anyway. So yeah, and then I'm going to just go ahead, once I get the measurement from that fully drooped down, I can go ahead and start cutting up these pipes, and then, or these square tubing, and then I think I might put it in the chop saw. The chop saw is freaking loud, but I don't know, maybe I'll throw AirPods in and listen to some music while I do that. But yeah, I'm gonna get you guys on the stand. We're gonna drop this guy all the way down to the ground, so we can get the measurement, the distance of the drive shaft, what it needs to be at full extension. And as long as we have a few inches of slip, or a few inches in there at full extension, then we should be Gucci. I mean, whatever, it's a square tube drive shaft. Okay, so I have the truck on the 10 tons. Got everything fully drooped down. We have a bunch of slack in these line, which I didn't think we are gonna have this much, which is sweet actually. So now what I'm gonna do is take a measurement from here to that pinion, or not pinion, sorry, from the pinion to the transfer case, and then we'll get our final measurement. That angle though is gonna look like it's gonna be pretty severe. I don't know if this is gonna work, Chief. So I have no idea if it's gonna work, but screw it, whatever. It is what it is, boys. It is what it is. I gotta say though, this looks really cool. Can't wait to get this truck flexed out. But let's take a measurement of the drive shaft. I'll be right back. Alright, so we have the drive shaft cut, 1 and 2. So the measurement I got after subtracting, so that's 4.5 and then 4 inches. So that gives me 8.5 inches, so 17.5. And then I went on the calculator because I'm not good at math, and it gave me 8 3/4 of an inch on each cut. What I did was I went to 8 inches on each cut. That way, even under full compression, there's no way the drive shaft could hit the end of the actual shaft, because if you do that, you can damage the diff, you can damage your transfer case. So I gave myself a little bit more room, and I don't know what it is. Maybe some people out there can tell me, but I dropped this bitch all the way down. You would have seen that. And I went up to, from only 26, maybe 25.5 inches to 27 inches. So I only needs about that much slip, but I am assuming that the U-joints are going to have a little bit of a hard time. So we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy up. I'm gonna throw it in the chop saw. I have it right over there. It's sitting there. Not gonna film that. I'm gonna throw some ear protection in because this thing is loud as hell, and I don't want to subject you guys to that nightmare. And then once that's done, I'm gonna tack it, just how I said, throw it in the truck, and then we're once again gonna see how she spins under normal operation, I guess, the normal ride height, and then we're gonna drop her all the way down to full extension and see if I can actually turn that without binding the U-joints. If it binds, then well, fuck myself. Fuck me, I guess. But I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so I got the drive shaft cut. 8 inches, 8 inches should give me more than enough slip, I'm hoping. And that's what I mean. We're just gonna go ahead, give it a couple tack welds. Yes, I'm gonna clean it up better than that, but give it a couple tack welds here and there, and then put it together, throw it in the truck. So I'm gonna throw a couple just quick little tacks in here, just some little guys, and then we can go ahead and see if it works. I also have to figure out if I have my transfer case bolts. I don't know where they went, but I'll go look for that in a little bit. Okay, so as you guys may have seen through this series, I fuck up. I am human. I mess up quite a bit, and I messed up on the drive shaft. Cut them way too short. So you probably would have been like, wow, that drive shaft looks tiny, and that's because it is. For some reason, I cut them 8 inches. I was like, okay, that's gonna, or 8.5 inches, that's gonna give me that 17.25 or whatever it was. And I completely disregarded that they slip into each other, so they were way too short. So I made a new one. I just had enough tubing to make this next guy right here. So that goes all the way up there. This is full extension. Still I have a lot of tube left in there, and even under full compression I tested it already. But you're gonna hear a noise. That's just the drive shaft itself. That's just square tubing. But look at that. We have absolutely zero binding in this drive shaft. So that is pretty sweet. I do think I will need new U-joints, however. I'm probably gonna buy some new U-joints, but you can see them working absolutely beautifully. So yeah, that is gonna be the drive shaft. That is done. Well, not really done. I just need to fully weld it. Yeah. Just remember, you are human. You're gonna make mistakes, and that was one of my mistakes that I made. Luckily, I had enough tubing to make a new drive shaft. I'm gonna keep that square tubing because it is material. Material is expensive here, even though it's a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead, clean the drive shaft up, and we're gonna start welding. I'm gonna do one root pass and then a cap pass after that, and just weld the absolute dog shit out of this drive shaft. And then I'm gonna get my hands really dirty and I'm gonna grease the shaft. Just like you were in high school, you grease your shaft. Turn this bitch back apart, get the drive shafts out, clean it up, fully weld it, grease my shaft. Grease that shaft. Yes, sir. Okay, so you will notice, like I just said, it's longer because I messed up on the measurement. Mistakes happen. I made 2 new shafts, painted the edge of this one. This is gonna be the shaft that goes in. This is gonna be the slip. So I'm not gonna bother even painting it. I'm gonna just grease the hell out of it. And this is the outer shaft. It's all painted right now, painted black. And what I am gonna use to for the grease is gonna be this. This is extra heavy duty grease from Lucas. I don't know if this is gonna work too well, but I mean, square tube shaft. It was like 50 bucks to do this, so you know. So I'm gonna grease this shaft. I guess I'll show it on camera. It might be a little X-rated, but yeah, I'm gonna grease that shaft, and then I guess we're gonna put everything in the truck. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this one-handed here. Get your grease. I wish I had one in the tub, but I don't. Remember, everybody, when you're gonna grease up your shaft, you want to wear gloves. It's just hard to get off when you're greasing up your shaft. So I like to take a little bit of grease here And we're just gonna go ahead and get some grease on this shaft. Make sure to go on an up and down motion. Yeah, so you're gonna want to get a lot of grease on your drive shaft. Remember, not any other shaft. So you're gonna get a good amount of grease on this guy, and then you're gonna put grease inside of that tube as well. So this is a two-handed job, so I'm gonna get into greasing my shaft, and then I'll show you guys the final product in a little bit. So I'll see you guys later. Okay, so just got done greasing up my shaft. That should be more than enough grease on this drive shaft. And then I think later on I might drill a hole in here and put a Zerk fitting so I can just hand pump grease into it. But you can tell I put like the whole tube in that mother lover right there. I ain't even gonna lie. But yeah, there's a bunch of grease in there now, so I'm gonna slide this shaft into there and we should be Gucci. So I kind of thought it was gonna be a lot thicker, this grease, considering it's a heavy duty grease, but it's pretty thin. So yeah, I'm not sure, maybe I'll get a different grease later on. But let's slide this shaft in here. Maybe there's gonna be some ASMR sounds of sliding my shaft into this guy. Let's get her in here. Oh, there we go. That's it's nice. That's nice and greased up, boys. Well, that is pretty much it for today's episode on Pedal Down 4x4. We have made our front drive shaft. I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, I think next week we'll get into the battery as well as the ARB air locker. And we're still waiting for the 37s to come in, as well as other things for the tie-in for the coilover towers. But until next time, and as always, thanks for watching.